I can't even show up for you if I'm unwell. And I'm learning that from you and my other family members who are older now, who can reflect and be like, I wish I had taken better care of myself, right? So I think every time that y'all say, hey, it's time to close the laptop, that's advice for me to live longer, right? Like, you can't continue to work and work and work that you aren't pouring back into yourself. So first advice would be, sis, you pouring, who's pouring into you? Make sure that there's some reciprocity, right? Even if it's from different sources, it's okay to fill your cup up. It's okay. Y'all have reminded me so often that it's not a negative thing to be selfish, to say no, to stay home, to recharge, right? I think I saw something online a couple years ago and they were like, it's rejuvenation is different from recharge, or rest is different from charge. And the example was the cell phone, right? So I could not use my phone, right? It's at rest. It's resting. I'm not using it. The battery will eventually still diminish. But to recharge, right? I'm pouring power back into it so that I can use it, right? And that little example stayed with me, right? So now I tell others, like, well, what did you do for joy? I ask that question. I still do. I still ask my students, right? Like, they tell me all the work that they did, and I try to end our sessions with, so what are y'all doing for joy this weekend? What kind of fun you got planned? Sometimes it's inappropriate and I don't want to hear about it. Like, okay, I hope y'all have fun on your little trip. But other times it's like, well, I don't know, I hadn't considered that. So maybe that's a point of departure from your plans, where we now get to consider, how am I pouring back into myself? What gives me joy? Am I doing something joyful for myself? Like, this isn't for anybody else. This is for me.
This is a Lirae Journey podcast on the McKissick Health Podcast Network. I'm Dr. Sherella Cupid, your host. The Lirae Journey podcast is a space for Black women to choose themselves. For season 3, the theme is love and. We'll continue the Sister Circle conversations with Black women from different stages of life within various roles regarding personal, community, and professional. The intention of this season is to continue and start conversations on the meanings, experiences, and practices around love in numerous areas. This is our grounding season. Because Lirae means love is real and eternal. So sis, let's practice love. So today I'm really excited to have this conversation with Dr. Asha Winfield. We've been closest now for going on 4 years, right? It'll be 4 years. Yeah. Yes. Summer. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Time be timing.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow. Yep. Summer 2021. We are in May 2024. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Please don't make me cry. We just pressed record.
And throughout my recording for this season so far, your name has entered into the space a lot. So I look forward to you listening to the other episodes so you can see the ways in which our other good sis, as you call us, speak of your name. I'm really intentional about giving folks their flowers while they're still living. And that's something that I have learned from you, right? You're really a person who expresses gratitude. So thank you again for taking this time out to be in conversation with me. So can you introduce us to yourself in a couple of sentences, please?
I hate that I'd be like, so what do you want me to say? But I guess I could say a number of things. Hey, y'all. Hey, my name is Asha. I tell everybody I am from Big Money, Texas. Okay, no matter where I go, that's known as Beaumont, Texas. I currently reside in Baton Rouge and I love it. I think if I were to describe myself, but not in the ways that we sometimes describe online, I would say that I am a creator. I'm a sister through and through. Okay, however you want to spell it or describe it, I'm a sister through and through. And I love hard. And I think my love shows up in what I create and what I produce. Professionally, I create spaces, okay? I'm a professor, but I love to create moments with the people around me that they never forget, right? And that's centered around stories, around identity. Depending on who you talk to in Beaumont, I'm the girl with the camera. Okay. Always the one with the camera, always the one people are asking to take photos. And I love that. I feel like the story keeper, almost like the person who's responsible, not like a historian for like student council. You know how they used to have the one that be like, okay, where are the photos for the yearbook? But the one that people, the person that folks go to when they want to remember, when they want to feel good, when they want to feel uplifted, when they want their story heard. I'm that girl.
Thank you. The story keeper.
Yes.
That's beautiful. What brings you to the sister circle space?
Today, sisterhood brings me to the space. Vulnerability brings me to the space. And love brought me to the space. I think whenever and however I can co-create with you, I feel blessed to be able to do it. Like, we've created some of the most beautiful sister circles I have ever seen. And to do that with just us is a beautiful thing. Like, we've created spaces where women have just been raw, like absolutely authentically, truthfully, honestly themselves, and they felt comforted in that. And for us to be able to do that for each other is a beautiful thing. And I want to take part in that. Sign me up, participant. Okay. Yes.
Okay, I appreciate you being here. Definitely look forward to the conversation. I would say perhaps for the last 2 years, we have been having these deep conversations about love.
Oh, yes.
So, in thinking about this season of your life, if you can title this season, what title would you give it?
Girl, what was you thinking? So it's really a balance. It's girl, what was you thinking? And girl, I'm so proud of you. It's in between the two because I'm 34 and I can look back on my life and be like, man, I dreamed and prayed about the moments that I'm in now. Like, girl, I'm so proud of you. And then there are other moments where I'm like, nah, girl, grab her by the collar because I don't know what she was thinking. Um, but yeah, I think we talk a lot about making space and giving ourselves grace and forgiving ourselves for a lot of things, right? We were even talking last night about learning and unlearning as we was watching thrillers, okay? Like, what does it mean to be graceful? Give yourself grace. Like, we give it to everybody else, why not ourselves? And I think you are a perfect reminder of that often. Like, if there's a moment where I feel like I'm just being honest, and you were like, why don't you give yourself grace? Why don't you speak sweet to yourself? Right?
That's how I sounded.
Yes. Only in those moments, because other
Okay.
times, that Baltimore be killing the game.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, in those moments, why don't you be sweet to yourself like that?
Okay. Absolutely hilarious. Okay. Well, thank you so much. So this season of your life is titled Girl, What Was You Thinking? And Girl, I'm Proud of You.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So in thinking about that title, how are you defining love in this season?
Oh, I think it goes back to our little grounding activity, right? Like, not little, I call everything little, but it was big.
Right.
It grounded. I'm
I'm
grounded.
used to you calling big things little.
Hey, glory, glory. I don't know why you do this. Can we cut that? You're not gonna cut it. Okay. I define love, and I think we were trying to like problematize it a little bit because it's so complex, right? I feel like I can define it based on how it shows up and how it makes me feel, but I don't know that I've come to a definition outside of what I've read in the Bible, which I've been going to constantly in this season. Like, girl, love be feeling long suffering. Love be feeling like it doesn't keep a list of all the terrible things that have happened. love shows up, right? Love covers all. I think even in my conversation last night with my dad, I saw so much of myself in my mom, and the parts of me that were having trouble like understanding in our conversations felt like some things got revealed. Like, dang, my mom is really a lot like me, or I'm a lot like her. And there's a lot of things that I'm learning about love based on their relationship with each other, based on my relationship with them, my relationship with my siblings, my relationship with my other parts of my family and friends. But for the most part, I feel most love when I can show up and when people show up for me, when it doesn't necessarily always feel like, oh, it's a sacrifice. Like, dang, this person really wanted to be here for me. Um, for me, love feels like it's constantly trying. I'm reminded of our imperfections every day. You can be trying so hard to say the right thing and do the right thing and still mess up. And what I appreciate about love is that it continues to show up and try. Like, I love you enough to try. Like the merging of two lives, whether it's in friendship or any other type of relationship, it's also the merging of different ideas and ideologies and histories and beliefs. And it's tough stuff. Like, nah, bro, I wasn't raised like that. Give me 50 feet. You doing too much. You know what I mean? And to soften our edges, our sharp edges enough to be able to blend our lives with other people in relationship has been a very interesting lesson in love. I think even you and I experience our rough edges being softened by love, right? Like sometimes I can say something, you'd be like, nah, that went over my head. Or you'll say something, I'd be like, girl, I don't know. Every day we be trying to figure out what each other is saying. I don't know if it's our accents, mine or yours, or even how we like see the world. But I know you love me because you continue to show up. You don't ask me to change anything about who I am, but maybe how I may be communicating with you, right? You set strong boundaries. You say, this is how I communicate. Sis, if you want to communicate, this is how we're going to have to communicate. And I know that, right? My sis told me early on, I do not like working all night long. I'm not going to do it with you, find somebody else. And I knew that. And I love you for it. My sis say she don't beat around the bush, never has, never will. I sprinkle stuff with a little sweetness, a little Southern charm. And she's like, no, that's cute, but no, say what you got to say. And I think love allows us to be ourselves and still appreciate ourselves and other people. And that's beautiful. I've learned so much from you, from my other best friend, through our differences, right? Learning to love each other, learning how to show up in other relationships. I feel like I'm taking lessons here and like applying them with like parentals or siblings or nieces and nephews. Lord Jesus, nieces and nephews. Okay. Yeah. Love is a teacher. Love is a teacher. And I think every season we graduate and it's a new lesson. Like, oh, you thought you got that one. That's good. But in every season, we require a different kind of grace, a different kind of love, right? Love for ourselves, love for others, love for God. I would like to see what it looks like to know and acknowledge when I'm on the receiving end. Like, I think I talk a lot about what I give, but recently I've been called out or people have been like, you don't receive love very well, or you don't recognize when other people are loving you. And what a shame. I think maybe in this season, a part of Girl, What Was You Thinking would be, girl, I wish you could see how loved you are. Like I have a wall full of pictures and beautiful moments with people that I love. And I keep them up there so that I never forget all of these moments where I felt so much love, so much beautiful energy. But I think in this season and in the next one, I want to be able to recognize love, even if it comes in different packages than what I've experienced before, right? Like if I think, oh, love shows up, but what if love writes me some words of encouragement. That's still love, right? What if love says, oh, I'll change your tire? That's still love, right? Maybe they didn't come to my show, but they changed my tire. You know, like being able to recognize it in its many different forms. It also sounds like acts of service is really big for me, and it is. I can come up with different examples.
No, if that's the way in which you recognize that you need to be loved in your next season, I say honor it.
That's good. That's good.
I think being open, like you said, to recognizing the ways in which love shows up unexpectedly. Because I can say, like, this relationship,
Oh, yes.
an unexpected relationship,
Yes.
right? Like, I think generally, like you observe me in public or in professional spaces, right? Like I'm reserved, like I'm observant, I'm going to do what I have to do, I'm going to show up. But my personality is not a personality that is extroverted when I'm in a public space.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel the need to perform that, even though some people may feel the need, or that's how they perform when they're in public spaces, so that they don't seem as though they're withdrawn or they don't want to be there, etc. So, but you show up extroverted, right? Like you bring the
Hey,
people
y'all.
together.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? You're like, oh, like let's take this picture. You mind if I take a picture of you? Right?
Yeah.
Like person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how you show up in public spaces. So I think comparing that to love is like, okay, how do I show up? How are other people showing up? And am I willing to let people show up as they are? But
Mhm.
also being open to ask people, hey, can you consider this?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. It definitely reminds me of when we first met in the Zoom room at the faculty meeting, the very first one. And everybody was introducing themselves, and we were the newest hires at your previous institution. Okay, I'll say that. And they introduced us, and they were like, "Hey, would y'all like to have some words?" And they were like, "Okay, Dr. Asha Winfield, you want to say something?" I was like, "Hey, y'all." Da 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 da. Also, I'm defending my dissertation today on sister circles. If y'all would like a link, just hit me up. Blase, blase, right? And I remember immediately you were in the chat like, hey, Dr. Winfield, I would love to watch your dissertation defense. Can you share the link with me? And I'm thinking like, she really ain't been looking very friendly. So, meaning, I'm gonna take a chance. I think at some points your camera was off. I was like, this girl do not want to be here. And then when you were on, you weren't smiling at the people. I was like, oh, she don't want to be here. I don't think she want to be here, but let's see. And not even knowing me for a whole hour, you showed up for me. You were in the room with all 75 people for my dissertation defense. And I was like, oh, this girl might be the homie. This girl might be the homie. Okay. And it has been a beautiful, blossoming sisterhood, friendship. I don't even know if I have the words to describe the growth that has come because you've been in my life. Like,
We're not gonna do the thug tears.
don't do it. I'm a thug to the day that I die. But my allergies,
Yeah, it's about that season.
pollen. It's the pollen. Yes, it is the season.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. In going through like our sisterhood and we are in sister circles together and being in an academic space, like I came in as a postdoc, you came in as tenure track, right? Like even being able to learn about the tenure track more like intimately because you're going through it together compared to like my dissertation committee who are full professors or they are tenured, they're at a different stage in life. Being able to see you go through the process has been revealing to me like, oh, okay, that's what they be. Okay, this is what the literature says in regards to like Black women being called in because they're Black women. They, like seeing you being called in so much. I'm like, oh, that's what the research was saying, right? Like the ways in which also
young scholars gravitate to you because you are also a young scholar. So looking for that like peer mentorship because they're in a doctoral program, but we all may be millennials. So there's that generational connection and wanted someone who understands that generational lens and continue to be that guiding light for a lot of people and that hope, right? Like, oh, like you love the space that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I admire and I love to see is that when people are in love, whether or not that's romantically, professionally, like within their family, like all of the above, it's beautiful to witness because we often don't witness the process of like, what does it mean to fall in love or to be intentional, choosing to be in love and to sustain that. Right. So, in thinking about the ways in which you said, like, I know how it feels to be loved, right? Like, I know this is what I need, or I prefer acts of service when people show up for me and they show up because they want to, not because it's a sacrifice. Is there anything, or are there any things that you are unlearning when thinking about love and storytelling, right? You say you're a story keeper. Like, are you unlearning anything in the stories that you're collecting and your lived experience concerning love and storytelling?
Yeah, I think sometimes we romanticize the past way too often. An example of this would be like I love asking older folks in the older generation, like, how did you meet your spouse? Right? I love a good love story. And sometimes I feel like some folks will romanticize how beautiful it was, but I also appreciate the stories that were a little murky, right? And we had to go through some stuff. We also had to unlearn some things. Them saying that they didn't want to repeat what they had seen, but sometimes they did, and they still strived. Lord, help today. They still were striving together, right? Stories allow me to sit with people, which is my favorite thing. And you're absolutely right. When I'm in the midst of like data collection or just sitting with the people, listening to their story and engaging with them, I am in a space of love. I am so happy. I feel so free. But I also realize that in that space, sometimes people feel like they have to self-edit, like they have to present one way or be perfect or whatever type of respectability politics are tearing them up on the inside. And I experienced that with people who are close to me as well, right? Like writing with them and them feeling like they have to show up a certain way in order to be accepted in scholarly spaces. And I say, bunk that. Absolutely not. Like, resist that. You can be scholarly or whatever you want to be, but your honesty is curriculum. The life that you lived is research worthy. It's publishable. It's worthy for students and other folks to sit with and learn from the life that you have lived and the stories that you are telling. That's love to me, and stories allow me to do that. When I turn my camera on for a documentary or I'm taking photos or headshots of folks, I'm falling in love with everything that God created them to be. From arched eyebrows to unarched eyebrows, to moisturized lips to unmoisturized lips, to straight lines and ball fades to locks. My God, today. Every piece of them, right? I get to view it from another perspective when my eyeball is locked in on that lens, right? Like, I also get to see them be playful, be carefree, and another story develops, right? Develops. You know what I mean? So, yeah, when I'm behind the camera, I'm in love. When I'm at the keyboard thinking about the stories that I've been able to sit with, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Those moments where we can just show up to be honest and free. I don't have to edit myself to feel worthy to be in this space. That's everything to me, right? I teach in the same ways. And I start off day one by telling them, like, hey, y'all, I want you to be in this space because you can learn more if you feel like I see you. I know that you can. You will be able to be with me in every conversation if you feel like I'm accepting you as you are. And every semester, they show up. Sometimes they show up and show out, okay? Let's be honest. But other times, they show up in such beautiful, meaningful ways, and they create from a space of hope, right? And that's everything. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
You answered it based on your truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a documentarian, and one of the things that you have documented is a part of your health journeys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you share a little bit in regards to what you have unlearned about love and health?
Yeah. What I've unlearned about love and health is that saying no is healthy. And I'm yet practicing it. I know my friends think I'm not, because I say yes so much. It's unequal. It's unbalanced. So you can't really see how many times I've said no, because you only see how many times I've said yes. But every time I say no, I feel stronger. My God, I feel I'm stronger. Why?
Right.
I'm better. I'm better.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm also unlearning that it's okay to say that I don't feel good, that I don't always have to show up in spaces as strong, right? I've learned from you, okay? This gonna be a Zoom class and y'all gonna teach each other today. I'm hurting, I'm cramping. What do y'all want from me? Like at some point in some semesters where I wasn't feeling my best at all, I just had to be honest. I say, y'all listen, I got some health things going on. I'm not dying. They need to hear that phrase. I'm not dying. But I have some things happening in my life where I need some grace from y'all. I will give you grace because life is happening for you too. I also need some grace. So some days, at least once a month, we're going to be on Zoom. And I need y'all to be okay with that. And they have been totally understanding. My health challenges have never come up in the course evaluations, and I wish somebody would. Okay. I think in line with that as well, just because something has gone through the generations does not mean that I have to go through it, right? So I've actually written about my fibroid experience and how many surgeries I've had and all that I've gone through from middle school, high school, my undergraduate, my master's, my doctoral, and even after. Like, fibroids have tried their best to tear your girl up, and yet I persist. I have survived, and I'm yet surviving. Not just surviving, in many ways thriving. But I think just being honest with where I am, not being afraid to tell the doctors, like, hey, I'm actually hurting. I'm not going to put on no brave face like I've seen other people do. I'm going to admit when I'm hurting, right? Sometimes that means I didn't get to hang out with friends and I had made plans and bought dresses. Okay, a little kitten heel was ready to go. And sometimes you just can't do it. And I found grace with my friends. They're like, oh, girl, we'll come to you. What you need? We got you. Yeah, I think being honest, when I was honest about what was happening, and I think I had heard so often from some of the elders in my family, like, oh, you don't be telling your business. Like, don't be on Facebook telling people what's going on with you, because some people will be praying on your downfall. And I said that may be true, but there also may be somebody who's on my Facebook or Instagram who needs to know that they can make it too, or who needs to know that they aren't the only one with fibroids or some type of reproductive health issue, right? Like, they aren't the only ones who are in pain, because oftentimes pain and suffering will isolate you or make you feel isolated and alone, like you're the only one and nobody understands. When I started being vocal about what was happening to me, everybody came out the woodworks. Girl, you too, me too, right? I'm just like, well, why were we all in the corner being quiet, trying to show up strong for institutions that don't care about us, that will put our job up the next month or less if we happen to die? Like, it's unreal. So being honest about what I'm going through, not being afraid to share it, even though I have family who's like, you need to stop putting your information online. And I'm like, you don't know who I'm helping. Please don't hinder my testimony, right? Please don't. Please. Because you just never know who's watching and listening, who needs to know what you're going through, because it's the same thing that they're going through. and seeing you make it or what you're going through helps them. I think we're stronger together because of it. And even in the sister circles that we create, because I feel like every place we go, we create a sister circle with somebody. And we encourage each other, whether that's in health and wellness and fitness, romantic, if it be, right? My sisters have allowed for me to just be like, here's when I'm okay, here's when I'm not. How can I help you get well? And you are also very big about that. Like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Tell me how I can help. And don't tell me just pray. I feel like you get mad if somebody be like, oh, just pray. You be like, no, I'm about that action. I'm gonna also pray. I'm gonna lift it up before the Lord. But what do you need? You need money, you need food, you need me to braid your hair. I need you to be specific. And I think I've learned that from you. You like, okay, thoughts and prayers are cute. I'm going to do it. I believe in it. But also, what can I do? And I think seeing you do that helps me to also remember that love is a call to action. Okay. Add that to the definition. Love is a call to action. If you see your brother or your sister in need, don't just say, I'm going to lift you up in prayer. Baby, if you got $10, hit the Cash App. What you need, a card, some soup? Let DoorDash be a blessing. I'm just saying. Love shows up in many, many different ways. Yeah. I'm learning that in unlearning silence. So yeah.
You're learning that love shows up in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Sister, I will never, and I bring this up all the time, I will never ever forget. You had only known me for less than a year when I had my surgery in June of 2022. Open myomectomy. And then I got sick a week after my surgery. Went to the ER. They were like, oh no, this swelling is normal. Coco, shout out to Coco, my girl. Coco drove me to the hospital. Coco was not ready to be seen.
Thank God for Coco.
Thank God for Coco. Coco rolled out of bed and said, I got you, Dr. Winfield, and ushered me to the ER at Women's Hospital. And the people was like, can you pass us your mama purse? I said, how old do they think I am? Lord Jesus. Coco looking like she's 16 and I'm looking like I'm looking.
Oh no.
And Coco was there with me and she was like, do you feel satisfied with the answers that you got? I said, dang, Coco, that's good. I don't feel satisfied. And I ended up back at my doctor 2 days later. And they said, actually, we don't care what the ER told you. This is infected and you need to have a surgery today. And I had an emergency surgery 2 weeks after my open myomectomy so they could save my life. And the next day after I had my surgery, my good sis Sherella came in with the tools and some gum. I guess my breath had been stinking. She brought me gum, a pack of it. I might still have some. A pack of gum, a frog squishmallow. I hate frogs, but I keep that squishmallow everywhere I go. And my sis braided my hair down because I was looking like what I had been going through. You know, some people are like, oh, you don't look like what you're going through. I look like it times 3. Hair, my curls was all over the place. It was a little natty. I had infection running through my body and didn't even know it. I just knew I didn't feel well and I needed somebody to believe me. And my sisters saw me, they believed me, and they showed up. My sis Megan was parting my hair and detangling it.
Mm-hmm. We thank God for somebody can part. That's a gift, okay? I said I can't part straight.
My head is uneven. It's uneven, okay? I got some bumps and lumps some places. And y'all worked on me. And I remember crying and trying to keep it together. Y'all braided me up. It was like a scene from Set It Off. You know what I mean? I just was in there with my sisters. And I felt love then. Like, you didn't know me as well as other people who had known me, who I thought would have shown up. And yet, in the little time that you knew me, you showed up in love and you loved on me. You said, my sister is a good woman. She don't have to be out here looking like this.
I can't wait.
You cared for me, sis. And I never, ever forgot it. I never will. Like, I never will. I think it also reminds me that sometimes the places that we plant aren't always the places that we reap, and it has to be okay. It has to be okay. There were people that I thought would show up for me because I literally was on my deathbed. They were like, if you had waited any longer, you could have been septic. And I just kept thinking, like, Lord, I thank you for sparing my life. And I had family to come and friends to come. And some of the folks that I thought would have been here because I was so sick didn't come. So I had to practice forgiveness. But the Lord also reminded me to be thankful for the ones who could show up, because y'all showed me a kind of love I had never experienced before.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful that you're able to expand on the ways in which you acknowledge and love, right? And we often talk about forgiveness and the seasons that we have been able to journey together and separately. Like we become a space of refuge, which we can like process things. Sometimes you'd be like, you know what, sis, I'm gonna sit with that. I don't have the answer to that question, but I'm gonna reflect on that, right? And I think it's beautiful to have spaces in which someone can call you into yourself so that you arrive at a better self.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, call me on home. Okay.
Right. So in thinking about being called into home, we are in sister circles, which we have younger sisters, right? We have Coco, we have Renee, we have Rakia, Tiffany. Like we have younger sisters that we are in community with.
Yeah.
In which we are intentional about creating spaces that we have yet to see, but that we know that we need. So instead of waiting on others to do it, we're doing it ourselves. Right. So in thinking about the spaces that you are curating, if you can offer your sisters advice or wisdom, reflection concerning love and health, right? What advice or what would you offer your younger sisters concerning love and health?
I think two things pop up immediately. I'm so careful with giving advice because I don't want nobody to take something that worked for me and that it don't work at all for them. So I'll try to be as general and as helpful as possible.
Yeah.
First things first, I can't love you if I'm dead. Okay. I would start there. I can't even show up for you if I'm unwell. And I'm learning that from you and my other family members who are older now, who can reflect and be like, I wish I had taken better care of myself, right? So I think every time that y'all say, hey, it's time to close the laptop, that's advice for me to live longer, right? Like you can't continue to work and work and work that you aren't pouring back into yourself. So first advice would be, sis, you pouring, who's pouring into you? Make sure that there's some reciprocity, right? Even if it's from different sources, it's okay to fill your cup up. It's okay. Y'all have reminded me so often that it's not a negative thing to be selfish, to say no, to stay home, to recharge, right? I think I saw something online a couple years ago and they were like, it's rejuvenation is different from recharge, or rest is different from charge. And the example was the cell phone, right? So I could not use my phone, right? It's at rest. It's resting. I'm not using it. The battery will eventually still diminish. But to recharge, right? I'm pouring power back into it so that I can use it, right? And that little example stayed with me, right? So now I tell others like, well, what did you do for joy? I ask that question. I still do. I still ask my students, right? Like they tell me all the work that they did, and I try to end our sessions with, so what are y'all doing for joy this weekend? What kind of fun you got planned? Sometimes it's inappropriate and I don't want to hear about it. Like, okay, I hope y'all have fun on your little trip. But other times it's like, well, I don't know, I hadn't considered that. So maybe that's a point of departure from your plans where we now get to consider, how am I pouring back into myself? What gives me joy? Am I doing something joyful for myself? Like, this isn't for anybody else. This is for me. Because if I'm full, what I produce will be full, right? What I create, the spaces that I make, they will feel different because what I'm giving to it is charged up, it's juiced up, So on the weekends when I'm cooking a very big breakfast for myself, I say, this ain't for nobody but me. But I'm spending time doing something for myself, and it's beautiful, and I reap the benefits, right? So making the time to cook a good breakfast, now I can have a good day. I'm cleaning the house. I'm in a good mood, listening to Gladys Knight, Midnight Train to Georgia. You know what I mean? I can choose another example. I know how we feel about. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, even when I go sit with the ducks and the geese, right? I know you real big and outdoorsy. You tried to take me in the woods one time and we aborted the mission. But even when I get to sit with the ducks at the park and I just get to journal, right? And you invited me to that space, and we are several states away. And you were like, hey, girl, it's Earth Day. We're going outside today. I said, yes. I'm going to close the laptop and I'm going to go sit in God's presence. I'm going to go with the ducks and I'm going to tell him all the things that I'm thankful for. And I'm also going to put some prayers in my little jar, right? And I keep my jar near me now. Like, ooh, who am I praying for today? What am I praying for? What am I seeking and believing God for? But it's just being intentional about the things that give me joy, but also making space to fill my cup again. There have been several moments in the last 7 years. So from doctoral program to now, maybe even before, where I have just felt really burnt out and just tired. Like I'm giving, creating. And there's so many expectations on me that I sometimes have to be reminded, like, girl, what did you do for you? Did you do something that made you like extremely happy and proud? Did you get to sit with yourself or just relax and chill? Like, did you get to be like, I want to say a bummish girl today, but like, did you just get to like just sit out and be? Right? Can you just be on the sofa today, watching Netflix, eating DoorDash meals, right? Like, what did you do for you, right? Did you go for a walk? And I told you that's how I feel about physical therapy. Like when I'm in there, I'm like, girl, this is for you. We have complex feelings about physical therapy right now, but I'm like, this is not impacting anybody else but you. It is just for you. But a good feeling you impacts the world. Dead, you can't. It could, but it's so much better if you're here. That would be my advice. I think often when I talk to our younger sisters, I'm just so proud of them and their voices and how willing they are to say. So, some of them help me to say no. Okay. Okay. But just at their freedom, right? To see them be so free. And so to combine their freedom with my knowledge, we create beautiful things together, right? When I think about Coco and just the conversations that we have, that is my sister for real. Okay, that's my little sis. I know the hospital thought that was my daughter. I don't know, whatever. But watching her continue to grow is beautiful to me, right? The day that I met Coco, I was a guest speaker in a grad class. It was their pro seminar. And I was just talking about my experience through my master's program and my Ph.D. And I was like, y'all, I didn't know if I wanted to do it, but I know I had to do it. I felt called to do it. And I was just being very honest, just being authentically myself. And her and Renee and Darian came up to me after and they were like, we need a hug. I said, y'all come to my office. And we went to the office and I was hugging the Black girls and I was telling them that they could make it, that they will make it. I know that it's tough right now. Something new is something different, but I'm telling you that you can and you will make it.
And they did.
All three of them, come on, testifying here. All three of them have made it, have careers, and they are doing beautiful jobs. Sometimes us being in the space and being unproblematic, let me add that, us being in the space and loving on our sisters and telling them we are the example, you can make it, and we're going to be with you. We're going to hold your hand. We're going to push you. We're going to pull you. We're going to encourage you along the way, and we got you, right? So it's not just saying, hey, I know you're going to make it. It's like, well, I'm going to walk with you to make sure that you do. And I couldn't be more proud of our girls. I really couldn't.
That's beautiful. And thinking about you being a story keeper, and I want to return back to that, right? You said that you're not going through your health in the same ways that the older generation did, right? Like your health journey has to, and it must be different. And it was different because you're intentional about being vocal and sharing your experience. And I believe you refer to this as loud healing.
Yes, I do.
Right. So in thinking about like, what does it mean for someone to heal loud or for loud healing? Can you share a little bit more about loud healing? Like, what do you hope to do differently compared to our parents' generation, for example?
I hope that the younger generations can inspire our elders to be loud about healing. I think we've lost too many people, and we continue to. Like, I'm still doing funeral programs for folks who didn't necessarily have to die if they had spoken up about some of their symptoms, but instead they died in silence, or they were overtaken by the pain. And so loud healing for me started with my mother, right? And being intentional about asking the questions like, Mama, I'm going through some stuff. Where did this come from? Right? Like, what am I supposed to do? She put on her pharmacist hat first, and then she took it off and put on Mama. And she let me know that she had experienced some of the same things. And she said that it was a lot of shame in her day for her to have to still show up, go to work, go to class, and find so many different ways just to get through the day because of all the things that were happening because of her really terrible cycles and her fibroids. And at some point I said, I gotta have something different. I gotta do something different. Granted, we have different technologies now. We got several different kinds of pads and different tampons and different medicines. And in the 50s and 60s, when she was growing up, they didn't have as many options. And so I think the options also inspire loud healing, right? Like I too get to have access to different options toward better health and healing. But even in the paper that my mom and I wrote together with some of my graduate students and their mothers, we did a combined paper, a dual ethnography. And I asked her to show up honestly in whatever way that meant for her. And I was going to ask her questions. And she kept saying, I don't know if I'm ready. And I'm like, you are. You've lived it. I'm right here with you. And she said she didn't know if she could speak like I could. I said, girl, we from Texas. We got a little country, and it is what it is. Don't nobody care about that. Be you. I'm going to be me. If we need to do some edits, we can. But I don't want you to feel like you aren't enough to write this paper, because you are. And the paper has been viewed over 800 times. I got people emailing us now talking about, hey, can we collaborate on some stuff because of the work that we've done? Or people who've read the work who've said, thank you so much. Like, we really needed this. Didn't know we needed it, but we did need it, right? And it's open access, so anybody can engage with it. It's not locked behind some academic wall or space. That's loud healing, right? I often say loud healing is turning the mic on. That our mothers and the generation before us have a voice. They are not voiceless. We are not giving them voice. They have a voice. They have a story. They have experiences. I think who is going to sit with them to learn from them so that we don't make some of the same mistakes with our health, right? For too long, we think silence is strength, but it's not. It's killing us. And that's not just with our women, that's with our men as well, right? We think, oh, no, my family's busy, I'm not going to bother them. And the whole time, families and family members are dying and they're in pain. They're ignoring their pain, or they're trying to figure out how to just make it through the day, when we could, in fact, we could find some healing, right? I lost so many people last year, and we just buried another uncle a couple weeks ago. And so the topic is particularly not just sensitive, but I feel very deeply connected to health when it comes to Black communities. It's not just research for me. I want my people to live, and not just live, but like to be healthy and happy and full of joy, right? Um, yeah, I'm not stopping with the work with Loud Healing, right? So I'm working on another research project. I reached out to 4 different hospital systems this week, and one has already reached out to us, and hoping to do more intergenerational sister circles with mothers, daughters, and granddaughters to talk about what stories we're telling each other about ourselves, our families, and our health, right? Also doing another paper with some of the lab members about the ways in which grandmothers impact Disney movies, because I feel like too often some of the most crucial stories die with our grannies and grandfathers. And we lose that history, and we lose parts of our identity that we don't know. It's not just about, oh, Granny knew all the recipes. She knew food recipes, but she also knew how to live, right? I just wish we could have turned the mic on for her. I think about my own grandmother who died my first semester when I was doing my doctoral program. And I think about all the questions I didn't get to ask, or all the events that we didn't get to share together, right? That she won't get to be there with me when I'm walking down somebody's aisle to somebody's, my handsome husband. I'm just going to speak that into existence. She wasn't there for my graduations. And yeah, I think I'm more empowered now because of all that I've lost to turn the mic on and to keep the mic on. I really, really am. I really am.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You answered the question, like, what conversations are we not having, right? When thinking about love and health, right? It's not just the recipes, but perhaps it's a story behind this recipe, right? Like, who did you get this recipe from?
Mm-hmm.
Or in season of, like, if you on a restricted diet because you are dissolving your fibroids, right? Or you're insulin resistant, right? How can we modify these recipes so that way it's still culturally relevant, but it fits my needs in this season of my life, right? So
That's good.
thinking about, thank you, and thinking about turning the mic on and Loud Healing, what's the story that you're going to be mindful to capture, either from your mother or your sisters concerning love? Like,
Mm. Oh, that's good. You know what I'm thinking about? And I don't exactly know if it's appropriate to share. I guess I'll find out later. But I think what I've learned from all of my sisters, and to see them now with my brothers and so happy, it reminds me that love exists. And I just want to capture, right? What does it mean to exist in a space to allow yourself to be fully loved, especially after health struggles and trials of life and loss and grief and mourning, right? What does it mean to emerge and to blossom in and with love? Man, what a story to tell. Like, I always like to end any, I know I said this earlier. I end every story with, like, what's the good news? Right? Like, what's the highlight? What's the joy? And I did the same thing with my COVID-19 documentary. Like we cried together, which some researchers would never do, but I guess I'm not that kind. We sat with each other's stories, and this was 30 plus participants all across the nation. And after we cried, I wanted them to dedicate their story and their interview to somebody that they loved, and everybody did, right? And we ended on a joyful note. Like, even if I miss that person and I miss them to the day that I die, I will honor them in my story with my story. They are my good news, right? I feel particularly responsible for some stories. So I think I've shared with you at least now 3 to 4 folks who were interviewed in my documentary in 2020 have now passed on. They've transitioned. And whoo, I say all the time, I just can't let these folks' stories and these beautiful moments die with me. I've got to find the power and the strength and the funding, thank you, God, to tell their stories in a meaningful way. Like, I refuse as a story keeper. It's not for me to keep them forever, right? It's for me to figure out what ways do we distribute these stories as joy, as healing? Like, they are wealth. These stories are valuable, right? And they're so beautiful and they're so cultural and they're so Black. Okay. These people showed up. They really showed up for you, girl. And yeah, that's what I want to make sure that I capture. I want to be able to sit with people and for them to know that I see them, right? That I love how they show up, no matter how they show up, and that I will never ask them to change in order to sit with me or for me to sit with them. And I think that's why I love sitting with our elders so much, because I think at some point in life, they're just like, okay, girl, like it is what it is. Part of that filter is gone. And just to sit with them, I love a good oral history. I love a good life story. But I love sitting in truth more than anything. And that will forever drive me as one of the stories that I have to make sure is on the to-do list for life, right? Like, who did you spend time with today? Even if it's not for research, right? Whose story did you sit with? What person did you empower just by being in their presence and listening, right? It goes such a very long way. And I learned it from my parents. My dad, a retired barber, sat with stories every day, because when you are caring for people and their beauty, you sit with who they are and their humanity. The same thing with my mama, the retired pharmacist, right? In order to care for people and their wellness, she sat with symptoms, sat with their health stories, their family narratives, and helped to co-create with their doctors a plan for a better life, right? And she did that for a very, very long time. So what they say, I got it honest. I really did. So
Thank you.
mm-hmm.
And considering all of your roles, right? You started off saying, like, I'm going to tell you who I am outside of starting off with the traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're a story keeper, you're a daughter, you're a sister, you're a researcher.
Sister. Mm-hmm.
How do you remind yourself to circle back to yourself to feel grounded?
I don't think that I do it enough, but there are moments at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day where I'm opening up the blinds and lighting my candles for the day, or in the kitchen making a little tea or coffee, and I'm sitting in my thankfulness, right? Thankful for everything that I have, everything that I am, everything that I'm allowed to be. When I'm turning off the lights at night and blowing out the candles and closing the blinds and thanking God for my space and everything that I have, I'm reminded that these are the things that I prayed for and waited for. Like, maybe it didn't show up like I thought that it would, or on the timeline that I thought that it would, but it has showed up. It has absolutely showed up, and I get to be grateful. I think when I'm journaling, I feel very grounded. When I'm sitting with the geese near the lake, I feel very grounded. But I am intentional about it every day. So if I'm putting on my makeup and I'm listening to my gospel music and I have to start the day with thankfulness, because there's too much that happens in the day with our jobs that can rob you of your thankfulness if you allow it, right? You would get a crazy email and now it's like, oh, I'm about to show you all the big words I know. Okay. And it's going to start with per my last email. But no, I'm reminded, even when I get bad news, and I think with the job that I have, there's so much rejection, right? People see your highlight reel online, but they don't know that we get rejected like every week. Okay. And I have to remind myself, even when that happens, and it happened this week where I didn't get something that I tried so hard for, and I just had to be like, in all things, give thanks. I'm thankful that I get to have another opportunity. I didn't get that one, but I can get the next one. And sitting in thankfulness and gratefulness at every corner allows for me to sit with who I am because of thankfulness, right? I'm thankful that I get to be a really good professor and that I get to show up for folks. I prayed for that. I envisioned that in therapy one day. She was like, well, tell me what you want to be. I said, let me tell you, I can see it. I can see it. I was knee deep in dissertation, and the therapist was like, show me. She said, I need for you to describe for me what you see when you see yourself. And when I tell you, 4 years later, I'm walking in what I declared. There are one or two things that might be missing, but I am walking in what I envisioned. And I was thankful for it then, and I'm thankful for it now. Yeah, I'm thankful that I get to be a storyteller, right? My name may not be in big lights, but I'm creating spaces with people that are impactful, right? I'm whatever stage I'm on, I bring a sis with me. Like, some people get mad at me for that. Like, oh, every paper you on, you bring somebody with you. And I do. And I do. Because you know what? If the door is open for me, bring a sis with you. Bring a sis with you. I will not gatekeep the blessings. I can't. I can't. I can't. So if I describe myself as a sis, I need to act accordingly, right? If I get an opportunity, that's for me and my homies. People gonna get sick of me. Okay. If I'm invited, I'm inviting a couple people to come with me, right? If I'm at the table, who can I invite? Other people need to see what's possible. They have to. If I'm a good teacher, how can I teach unless I bring you with me? If I'm a good sister or a good daughter, a good friend, I have to also include you in the space. I think anybody who talks to me is like, oh yeah, Asha, make sure you in the space. Or you on the paper, you in the lab, you on the project. If she get a little something, you got a little something, right? And I just believe in that. That is what community is to me. If I say I'm a community member, you know I love you because you are in the space with me. And it's not gonna be no negative space with me. If we in it together, we are going to co-create and curate something beautiful. That means everything to me.
Yeah. And thinking about the ways in which you show up, so you're intentional about inviting other sisters in peace, right? I have to say in decency and order.
Come on. All
right. How do you know if someone loves you? And I ask this question to everyone, right? How do you know if someone loves you?
Is this different from the question we asked earlier? Because, like I said earlier, I'm still learning that even if it doesn't show up how I think it should, that it can still be love. And sacrifices are also love. I know I said earlier, like, I don't want to always feel like a sacrifice, but I do recognize sacrifices as love. I just don't want to always feel like, oh, nevertheless, how do I recognize love, that I'm loved? Outside of people showing me different ways to show up or that they show up for me, it's the consistency. If I'm able to grow with you and alongside of you, that feels like love to me. Like, I'm growing internally, personally, interpersonally. That feels like love. If I can be honest and expect honesty, that's love, right? Some people say love is blind, but it's honest though. It's honest. It's vulnerable. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I don't know. I think in the moments that I felt the most love is when I felt like forgiveness was there and that there were opportunities to try again. In my younger days, I knew I was loved when my dude would get mad and he would be like, but I love you though. Okay. You don't know I love you. You know what I mean? That's my interpretation.
Okay.
But yeah, but I put away those childish things. When I was a child, I thought like a child. I'm a grown-up woman now.
You think like a grown-up woman now?
A grown-up now. I don't want to grow up.
Okay.
I'm a Toys R Us kid.
Okay, they putting a sponsor you? Okay.
They could, with all these
Okay.
colors I got on my shirt. Yeah, how do I know I'm loved? I think I'm still learning. I'm still learning. And because I'm still learning, I do think I sometimes miss those moments when people are showing me love. And those are opportunities for me to learn. Right. So someone shared my article. Oh, that's love. Okay. You want everybody to engage with my work. Okay. Thank you. Get the metrics up.
Yes.
If you are citing me, that feels like love. Citing the good work. Inviting me on, that feels like work. Including me feels like love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to know that you want me in your space feels like love, that you want to share space and energy with me. So inclusion. um, I think I'm still learning. Repeat the question for me one more time, sis, please.
Of course. How do you know if someone loves you?
I know my parents love me when they share wisdom with me and they just spend time when I'm sick, or they make my bed when I'm back home in Beaumont. That's love, because I know they tired and they don't move the same way they used to. When they cook me breakfast in the morning and they just want to sit with me, that's love, because I know I got crust in my eye and a little drool down my chin, but they just want to be in my presence. That feels like love with them. With my siblings, when we all get together, and even though they like to hoorah me a lot because I'm the only girl, that feels like love. Not the part where they playing in my face, but the part where we're just together. Like when all of our schedules can collide in a beautiful way and we're just laughing and cutting up with the nieces and nephews and the sister-in-laws. That intention with time feels like love. That's how I know I'm loved in those moments. With my friends, I feel most loved, or I recognize the love that they're given. I think when we're just in the moments, just being regular people, laughing it up, kikiing, eating good food together, or cooking together, taking walks, or me introducing them to other people in my life that mean a lot to me, right? So like when our mothers got to meet each other on FaceTime, that was so cute to me, okay? Like, oh, dang. That was like a loving moment. Like for you to share a part of yourself and me to share a part of myself. Like, you know why I act the way that I act. Here's the reason. That's my mama. But yeah, the way that we show up for each other, I know that I'm loved. When you try to watch a movie with me and one of your eyes is
Now
open,
you know you're not fitting to tell no stories. That's not the story that you're gonna keep now.
you don't want truth. That's the problem. I was gonna say, even when you're tired and you still try to spend time with your sis, and we call it like, our sister date night, right? So we're gonna watch a movie, an episode or two on something. That intention is love. That's how I know. I know you didn't have a long day and people didn't say what they wanted to say, but you making that time just to like spend time, that's love. Romantically, and I try to categorize it,
I
okay?
see. I'm seeing.
Myself
I
better
realize.
understand.
Mm-hmm.
Who May for me? I think
And you also don't have to share this part. And I can note.
I'm just trying to, I'm trying to, no, I think it's good. This is one thing I love about our conversations is that it allows me to kind of like sit in truth and to ask myself questions and make considerations that I had not before. And I think that's good for our relationship, but also the others that I'm engaging with. And so I think I feel most loved in romantic relationships in some of the same ways. When I feel included, when I feel seen, when I feel like time has been spent in meaningful ways. And when I feel like I just get to share parts of my life, like, can I share my academic life with you? Can I share my spiritual life with you? Can I share all of the other parts of me that make me who I am? And can I share that in my fullness? And I can also expect that same sharing and give and take, that same striving. That's when I feel most loved. Yeah. It could be just like sitting in front of the TV. I could give an example, but I feel like you're not gonna, let me not judge what you might think because the listeners don't know who we're talking about. So, like, if I'm sitting on the couch and I'm just twisting up some hair and we're just watching TV, I feel loved in those moments. Or, for another example, like if we're at a conference, maybe. This is just a random example for listeners who might be nosy. If we're at a random conference and just walking down the streets of the city, just enjoying being in the space together, I feel, oh my God, I feel loved. Like if you making sure I don't get hit by a car, I know you love me.
Okay.
Those are the moments I feel most loved.
Thank you.
I would also add that I am interested in the next season of my life when I'm in love to really explore how love shows up in like true romantic relationships, like committed relationships. I can't wait to report back.
Okay.
I can't wait to see me in love, okay? And I can't wait to report back how love shows up and what it looks like.
Thank you.
Can I ask you the same question?
You can.
Okay.
It's a conversation.
Yeah, I want to know how you would answer.
For how you did it or how you want me to?
However feels like comfortable for you to answer, because I definitely want to know.
Yeah. How do I know if someone loves me? I know if someone loves me if I feel safe with them.
Oh, that's good, Sherella.
Because you know how I am. Like, I'm gonna give it how I think it should be given. I'm not going to expect people to beat around the bush either. Like you said, like I'm really direct and I'm learning that perhaps it could be a regional thing in regards to directness. It can be a generational, like who raised you, right?
Yeah.
But in regards to my expectation of you being honest and
Mhm.
communicating with me. if you can go through the communication process with me and we create our own language together, that's how I know you love me, right?
Ooh, that's good.
Like I can know sometimes, Asha, like when you pissed off, when somebody done got on your nerves, not by what you say, but by your facial expression.
Yeah.
Right? So to know someone is to also say that they love me. The fact that you gave me the opportunity to know you in a vulnerable, sacred, authentic way
Oh, I love that.
is how I know if someone loves me.
Oh, that's good.
And it's also grown with that person, right? I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. And
Right,
I
right.
shouldn't be that same person. But we know we have a mutual connection together,
A few.
right? But in particular, my ask was that this person loved me through my transition.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're asking folks, like you said, like, oh, can you love me in this way? Because that's how I register love.
Mhm.
And if they can't love you, or if they didn't love you in that way, and then you go back to them and say, hey, can you share like why this happened? And they don't take the time to engage in that conversation, then it doesn't feel like you love me because you're not engaging with this with me. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't know who expects perfection. I don't. But if you can be honest with me, go through these processes of life with the intention of peace and
Mhm.
joy and commitment, then that's how I know you love me. Like I'm committed to our sisterhood. So I'm gonna show up. Even if I'm tired, I'm like, hey sis, are you okay? If you're okay, okay, cool. Do you mind if we hang out later because I'm not feeling well, right? Or if you need me right now, I want to make this sacrifice. It necessarily doesn't feel like a sacrifice because I love you and I want you to be well. So sometimes I can't be primary in the relationship because you may need something more. Or sometimes you can't be primary because I need something more in this moment. So what are the ways in which we put each other first without question, without hesitancy, because it was needed in this moment? That's also I know if someone's loved me.
Oof. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. This is the perfect example of somebody who sits with themselves and journals. This girl in practice. I love that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, sis. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah. I hope that helps. I appreciate you asking the question back.
Mhm.
And feel free to ask this one back, right? When do you feel like you love yourself the most? Like, what does that look like, sound like, feel like, taste like? Like, I offer up this census to folks in order to take us through that picture, right? Put us in that space. Like, when do you feel like you're loving yourself the most?
I feel like I'm loving myself the most when I take a nap. That's first. Like I am choosing rest. And the folks over the rest ministry page would be proud of me. Okay. Yeah, I think when I'm choosing to settle my spirit and my body, I'm good. I've had to retrain my mind that rest is a part of productivity and I can't produce if I'm not rested. And so I look at naps totally different. People are like, girl, you grown. And I am. Good night. Pass me my blanket. Um, that's first. Second, when I'm cooking good, healthy meals, I'm loving on myself. I'm thinking about my future children, because I know a healthy mama can help produce healthy children, right? I know that there are other factors, but I also know a healthy mama is a good part of it. And with some of the stuff that I'm trying to do right now, okay, we're trying to get the uterus to not be so hostile, okay? That's how I know when I'm cooking good, healthy meals and I'm resting, intentional about rest and making time for rest. And my favorite thing that you know I love to do. I love a good bath. Okay. I think I saw somebody on Instagram talk about when we putting everything in the bath, from our salts, our bath bombs, our oils. And they were like, girl, that's a body brine. That's like what you do for like the turkey and the chicken. You let it marinate, you making a little brine. So I am. I love because I will stay in there a whole hour if I can, just soaking and resting, washing off the day. Because sometimes you just gotta wash off the day. I feel like I'm loving on myself when I allow myself to just, smell good, clean. I'd be like, nah, I might even taste good, girl. I don't know. So you talking about sensory, I'm just trying to make sure. But yeah, when I'm eating well, I'm soaking well, and I'm resting, I know that I'm loving on myself. I will also say that when it relates to like my work, on days where I feel like I've prepared myself for a good day and I have a good day, I feel like I have loved on myself, right? And it allows for me to show up for the students in beautiful ways. When I feel fully prepared for the day, I'm less anxious. My anxiety ain't tearing me up. I'm not worried about how many meetings I have because I've prepared for it. Preparation is a part of how I love myself, especially knowing that I sometimes can get very anxious. So, yeah, I think that would be it. I will also say at the end of the day, when I get to make a little tea and kind of sit with you or sit with my sisters or my new niece, and I can just be in the space with a nice cup of anything, right? It feels like I'm being kind to myself. Yeah. Please answer the question. Please.
Yes, when do I feel like I'm loving myself the most? Similar conversation that I had with Tiara is like to be intentional about beginning the day with myself and ending the day with myself. So usually I begin the day with a prayer, do some stretching, have a good breakfast. And if I end the day with me journaling, having a cup of tea, and ending off with like my gratitude moments, like, I try to do that. Like, what throughout the day am I grateful for from myself, from my loved ones, and from the world in general? Just having gratitude
Mm.
is when I feel like I'm loving myself the most. And also when I'm being vulnerable, like whether or not that's with myself or
Mm.
with others, even though it can be sometimes uncomfortable, right? Because to be vulnerable means that you're allowing someone to both either like love you exponentially, but also disappoint you exponentially. Right. So the fact that like even though this may feel scary and unknown and daunting, etc., that I'm courageous enough to say, I'm gonna love myself. I'm gonna go through these self-reflective questions, or I'm gonna go through this relationship because this matters to me. Because we don't know what the folks will say. Like we may have some expectations or some hints of potentially what they'll say or do. But if I'm practicing vulnerability and being okay with the outcome, if I could say at the end of the day, hey, I don't have regrets, I was honest, I was truthful, and this is the outcome of it, then I know that I have loved myself the most.
That's good. No, but
We have had to have some difficult and challenging conversations within the last 2 years in different spaces.
oh yeah, I was gonna say even a dull knife will still cut. So you know what I mean.
Okay, I can be that dull knife, no problem. If
I was
that's
just saying you don't get loud with it, but baby, that honesty. You teaching me how to show up honest, even more honest, right? Without sometimes putting the sweet coating on the outside so that it feel good to the audience. I still do, but I'm learning that sometimes that extra sweetness is extra work. Like, girl, read the last email, please.
Yeah, I know you have taught me like what does it mean to practice forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's accepting that sometimes things don't work out the ways in which it should have worked out, or the ways in which the person said that it would have worked out, right? So even when there is misalignment of words and action, like what does it mean to practice self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others? It's a process. And what does it mean to forgive someone and still want to be in that relationship with them?
That's good, sis. That's real good.
Yeah. You got patience that I've learned. Like, you do.
I do. I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So thank you again, Dr. Asha Winfield, for taking the time out to share on love and storytelling and health. Where can our sisters, our supporters, our sponsors find you in a public space?
Yeah, you can find me. Find me. I don't find me on Facebook, but you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Asha Winfield. That's DrAsha Winfield. It is the same thing on Twitter. Get me while I'm still on there, y'all, because Twitter be looking great. X be looking real different these days. So that's also Dr. Asha Winfield. If you would like to know more about my Storytellers Lab here at LSU, you can also follow us on X. Our handle is at Storytellers Lab LSU. Our website is www.thestorytellerslablsu.com. And if you have any questions, then you can always email me at productionsbyasha@gmail.com. If you would like to see some beautiful pictures of all of the wonderful folks that I've been taking pictures of for the last 13 years, you can visit www.productionsbyasha.com.
Thank you. And you mentioned the lab throughout our conversation, but you really didn't go into it. So can you briefly share what the Storyteller Lab is?
Mm-hmm. So the Storytellers Lab is my heart. In my doctoral studies program, I just kept envisioning what space would look like for people who don't fit so neatly inside of like these academic spaces and silos, right? So what if you like to do research, but you also are very visual? So that is a space that I created here at LSU at the Manship School. I wanted to create a space for scholars, undergrad and graduate, to be able to get a wide range of training, but also to be very active in the community. So the Storytellers Lab is a combination of graduate and undergraduate students who are interested in visual and also research storytelling. So we partner with a number of different organizations and hospitals to do the good work, right? And also different schools. We have been in different libraries. We've gone to different conferences. We've screened some of our work. It's beautiful. One thing that I'm very proud of that's coming up next, well, I don't know when this will air, but on May 9th, I'm hosting my third short film screening of student documentaries. And I think that brings me to almost 20 documentaries that I've helped to co-produce through the classes that I created. And I'm just like, man, we're really turning the mic on for the students and for everybody that they engage with, because it's not just transformative, it's exponential, right? You touch a life, they touch three more, who touch three more, or five more, 10 more. And everybody's talking about storytelling. So, yeah, that's what the lab is to me. The lab is my heart. I think I did the count of how many students that we have had or have done work with, and I think we're at 22 students in 3 years, some of which have graduated. But yeah, I'm very
That's
proud of the work that
amazing.
we've done.
22 students. Wow, I didn't realize the count was so high.
Yeah, 22 students who have engaged in some way with the lab. Some of them are co-researchers, some of them are co-organizers. But yeah,
Wow.
so it's
Okay.
22 of them, and then I've been on 31 graduate committees, or yeah. But yeah, I love the work. I love the stories. I love teaching students how to sit with the stories and how to do the good work in ways that produce beautiful outcomes. So,
Thank you. You mentioned that you're working on a couple of projects right now. So, in thinking about folks who potentially will be either interested in contributing to the work, so, grants, if anyone is listening, helping us just get grants and funding, like what would you say in regards to that? Because we know that being a documentarian, a filmmaker, storyteller, right? It's expensive, right? So any words in regards to the services that you're open to, services either sharing or being a part of, like what would you say in that regard?
As far as the services, so I'm proud to say that the Storytellers Lab and my students have produced some really great work. As you know, in order to do a lot of the work that we hope to do in the community, it takes money. And oftentimes folks think that because we're associated with the university that we just have unlimited access to funds. And in actuality, that is not often the case. There's a lot of red tape. There are blessings that come here and there, but there's also still a lot of red tape that we have to go through. A lot of rejection for different grants because we are interdisciplinary. And so we sometimes run into different grants saying that we don't fit neatly inside of this category or another. And so there's that. But I will say for anybody who's listening, who's thinking like, man, I really like to be a part of the Storytellers Lab or figure out a way how I can support them in some of their research and also some of their visual research. Well, you can always contact me at the addresses online or my email address, which is theproductionsbyasha@gmail.com, or my professional one, which we may list later. But yeah, there are so many opportunities for people who want to partner with us. So we are looking for funders who want to help support our documentary series entitled Our Black COVID-19 Stories, which is the documentary that I started in 2020 and have been traveling across the U.S. to finish. There are also other ways to be impactful if you are interested in helping to really celebrate the storytellers that are emerging amongst us. We are constantly doing public events, whether that's screenings or special displays with the library like we did this semester. We're always hosting a screening and always trying to bring in great voices. This year was my third annual Telling Black Stories event, but this was the first time that it was a week-long event. So we brought in several speakers, visited several classes, but as you know, that also costs money. So yeah, if you're interested in being a partner or a collaborator, a funding source, please do reach out. We are always willing to take a listen and to share in the space, the creative space, with those who understand that these stories aren't for profit, but that they're valuable, that they are wealth, that these are people's lived experiences, and that we handle them with care and ethics. So, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Winfield. So thank you again, sis, for taking the time out to be in conversation with me. So again, thank you for listening to the Lirae Journey podcast. As I will sign off, in community, love is real and eternal. In community, peace.
Peace.
Hey sis, subscribe, comment, and leave a 5-star review if you enjoy the show. To encourage other sisters on their journey, share the show with them and tag @Lirae Journey on Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you in the chats. Listen to the Lirae Journey podcast on all platforms and follow us on social media @Lirae Journey. You can also find us online at podcast.mckissickhealth.com. That's podcast.mckissickhealth.com. So come on in.